Arsène DeLay, and I live in the 7th Ward. Sometimes, depending on how intense the rain is, it can look like a river runs through it on the street itself, and definitely puddles. Before, when I had concrete in front of the house, if I stepped out here during a heavy rain, which had happened before, I would be ankle deep. One of the incidents that radicalized me was I was actually coming home from doing a gig, and I could not drive my car across Claiborne. I had to take my show shoes off and wade in the water, park my car over by Little Dizzy's on Esplanade, and park it on the sidewalk so that it would not get water damage, and the gear in my car wouldn't get messed up too. And waded in the water back to my house, and then had to wait for the water to subside before going back to retrieve my car. And that one in particular it was August 5th flood 2017. It rained pretty heavily for about 4 to 5 hours. We got about I measured about 7 inches in my backyard. If we're flooding when we get a heavy rain, when a hurricane comes, we're going to be in big trouble. When it comes to green infrastructure, I started small. I went to a workshop, and I learned how to do stormwater planters and rain barrels, which I loved because those are easy things that you can do. And I was also interested in figuring out how people who rent can also do these kinds of things where they don't have to worry about the permanence of something. So, it started with a rain barrel and then a stormwater planter. Through working with WaterWise and Dr. Chalk, I was able to get a grant, and I was able to take the concrete that I had in the front yard. I had about a 9 by 10 slab in between my 2 driveways. And I was able to remove that concrete and put an entire water garden. Then this holds about 300 gallons. But I was able to put that in here, and I designed this, and I designed the rain chain because I needed to figure out how to get the water from off of the roof past my little garden bed right here. So I did it's heavily grown over, but there are 2 barrels. The top one has rocks in it, and the bottom one has some permeable like limestone and some soil with papyrus in it. And there's a little port that pours into another barrel with rocks that disperses the water into the rest of this area. And as you can see, it is definitely taken off, because it was not this size when we had our next major rain event. And it was pretty intense to the point where this water garden was here, and we had water, like there was water above, like it was at capacity. The thing is that after a half an hour, the water was no longer pooling in here. It had been absorbed back into the ground. And the difference is this whole space in front of my house, including like all of that, there was no standing water around that. Whereas, in other spots of the street, the water was standing, and it stood for several days. I would like to see green infrastructure be a part of the building code, period. That's something that I've seen in my neighborhood, is a lot of rebuilding going on, and they put these really big houses on small lots, and they want to put concrete driveways in. I would really like to see those be permeable. I would like to see those new builds managing their stormwater. I would love to see more trees on the street and having more of a tree line. I would love to see more like bioswales and water gardens just on the sidewalk side of the streets, so that water has somewhere to go and it's getting back into the water table. Because when it gets into the water table, things like subsidence and the cracking of the concrete and these kinds of things cease to happen. They stop happening, or they're greatly reduced. Some ways that we can work together to address flooding is, I think, just continuing the education within the community. I think that a lot of people are interested, but they don't know where to start. I think a lot of people are, they might feel a little overwhelmed by things, and I think that we just need to make sure that this knowledge is accessible to them. And I think, you know, just like what WaterWise has done, when we were putting this garden in, the community came together and we did it. We did it ourselves. This was all a bunch of, you know, folks who are like-minded, who came in here, and we installed the limestone, we installed the soil, like we did it. We rocked it out in an evening, and, you know, there's so much that happens when you do that, aside from the fact that you are participating in land stewardship, but you're also building community, because it's in those moments where you're all working towards this collective goal that community is built and the ties are strengthened and sustained. And anyone who has been through Katrina, Ida, any of the hurricanes knows that at the end of the day, all we have is each other to depend and rely on.